All right, hello everybody. Um, so this is I made another episode and for a while ago, and I didn't release it because I kind of just rambled for a bit, so I actually don't remember what I said in it. But I actually have a topic to talk about today. Fucking imagine that, a topic that is something, and also not super personal this time, but I have been, for some reason, I don't know why quite, but I decided that now was the time to design my next characters in D&D. And I think it was kind of spurred on by a friend of mine who was like, "Oh yeah, look, hey, there's this like a online thing, D&D podcast, whatever. This character is called Miria," and I was like, "Yeah, huh? This is a little weird." But yeah, it's fine. And like it's a good name. And and I was like, huh. And then this character, got popular enough to be ported into the Champions of the Forgotten Realms Idle game, I think it's called. Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. I was like, this I need to reclaim my name. So so I decided to design my own character, Miria. And as I already have a character, Miria, if you listen to, I think it was my first episode, Crownguarde, this is going to be largely based upon that because it is very much that I made alternate versions of Selfie and Miria. And I was like, huh, wait, if they were in like a D&D type setting, what would they be? And that's what this is going to be about. The Crownguarde, the D&D version. And I kind of overcomplicated it a little bit, not gonna lie. Um, because what it is that, I kind of wanted to go off of the same, like, origin and everything. So, still, these two sisters adopted, instead of Selfie being Mikote from Final Fantasy 14, or however you pronounce that, I actually don't know. She is now a tabaxi, which is a cat person. And I figured she would be like a cheetah kind of vibe, because she's like, the fast one and everything. So she's like a tabaxi monk, is what I wanted to do. And so that's her thing. She's like a tall, kind of like muscular, but very nimble tabaxi. And then you have Miria, who in the original is an aura, a dragon person. And I was like, huh, how do I want to do this? Because I don't want to make her dragonborn, which is, unlike in Skyrim, it's an actual fucking dragon person. I was like, that's not really the vibe I want to go for here. And besides, I don't really want to like accentuate her dragon heritage, because she does have dragon heritage, but I kind of wanted it to be not really the focal point of her character. So I thought, how can I make this be a little bit not what that is? So I figured, okay, she's a tiefling. And specifically, she's kind of like a gray tiefling. And so she's way more like she has like this demonic heritage, because tieflings are like demon people, kind of. They have like horns and tails and everything. And I kind of wanted to give her like the little bit of a vibe from like a Majin, the female Majin from Dragon Ball, with like it's not, wait, they don't have tails, but kind of like not really like a demon kind of like tail look and everything, but kind of like a more like a lizard tail would look like. And instead of like devil horns, she has like this long like horns that kind of like run towards like from her forehead and then back from her temples. I think temples. I don't know, like the upper sides of her face, and like back along her hair, and then down a little bit. So she's a little more like she is a demon, but kind of like not really in the traditional sense you would see in. And that's what tieflings look like a lot of the time, anyway. So it's not really that big of like a transformation in any way, shape, or form. It's within the compounds of what you would normally see. And yeah, and I figured, okay, in Crownguarde, it was very obvious. Like, Selphie is a monk, so of course she's going to be a monk as well. And she was also a dancer, but dancer doesn't really exist in D&D. There's no really good. I guess like a bard would be what a dancer is, but so she like I guess she would be like a bard monk or monk bard multi-class situation. And then Miria, who was who was primarily a black mage and a summoner. I guess that would be more like a warlock sorceress. Warlock sorcerer. And I decided for Miria to focus on sorcerer more than anything. So I kind of like I'm not good enough at character building or anything to do multi-classes, and I don't understand the system enough to do multi-classes, and I'm gonna get in on the classes more later because that is a whole thing that I thought of. So the gist of it is we have Selphie, the Tabaxi monk, and Miria, the tiefling sorcerer. And, you know, they live their life as they do in Crownguarde. They are orphans, like their villages are like destroyed. They're taken in by this like kingdom or whatever, and raised by the guard captain and brought into the family. And it's a nice little thing. And oh, I dropped this little thing I'm fiddling with. All right, so and then like that kind of works out, and they have a nice childhood. But they're also like they go to like military school kind of thing. They learn to become like soldiers, and like that's how it is. And like when I like I haven't really changed much about how their story goes. They still go out on these missions. They still go out on like they still try to fight to save people around, and that's kind of their vibe. But I decided that there should be, because I can't play both of them at the same time, obviously. So something needs to happen, right? To make so that because these in Crownguarde, these two are basically inseparable, and they complement each other very well. Their fighting styles are determined by or like trained through the fact that the other one is there. Selphie can rush in and be the point, and know that Miria has like the backup, and Miria doesn't have to worry much about close combat encounters because she knows that Selphie would like take care of it. And like that obviously can't really work in a D&D setting because I can only play one. So what I came up with is that there would be some sort of event. And I kind of want to say that, like, so far, I haven't really decided yet. But so far, what I've kind of decided is that the kingdom that they were, like, taken in by was at war with this other, like, invading nation who tried to take over what's it called? The city and the province and everything. They were, like, fighting for their country against this other, and to protect the city and everything. And what would then happen is that there's this pivotal battle where they fight off not only the big, they help fight off the big invading force, of course. This is like the final push that they do. Because like it's now or fucking never. We're gonna do it. So, and they help fight them off along with everyone else, and so it's this big thing, and all of their friends, and all of the other soldiers, and everything. And then there's a battle against, like, this, like, enemy general, who is, like, the big bad, pretty much, of this story. And that would feasibly also be the end of what Crownguarde would be, actually. So they would fight against this general, and it's a really tough fight, and, like, the general is, like, fighting them off, and they can barely hold their own against them, and it's, like, this massive thing. And of course, in the end, the general is defeated. But how we get there is kinda what I've been thinking about a lot. Because I said, like, we need a reason for Miria and Selphie to travel around alone. And I kind of, like, when I was looking up the subclasses that I wanted to do for these characters, I kind of couldn't really decide. Specifically for Monk, I couldn't really decide. So I came up with a concept, which is that the fight against this general can end in one of three ways. The first is that, though, like, gravely wounded, Miria and Selphie both make it out alive. The second is that they win, but it ends up killing Selphie. And the third, of course, is that it ends up killing Miria. So either they're both alive, or one is alive, only one of them, and has to live with what it's like to live without their counterpart, pretty much. So I figured, let's just go through all of them, because I've thought about pretty in depth about what each of these should be. Why are they on another adventure? And more importantly, if they fought against this massive enemy force, if they are in the campaign that they would be played as, why are they level 1? Why are they back to a way more, like, way lower power level? And that's what I've been thinking up. So here we go. I guess that was the prologue. In chapter 1, I'm not going to do fucking time codes, because I'm going to upload this to Spotify anyway, and time codes aren't going to matter there. So yeah, chapter 1 is, what if they're both alive? Or should I do... Yeah, what if they're both alive? No, I think that's kind of a sweet one to end on. So I'm going to do... Okay, chapter 1 is going to be, what if Miria dies? And then Selphie, standing alone, having won, but also having lost the person that, like, she grew up with, that she, like, the most important person in her life, has to find out what to do now. And, like, the thing is that though Miria is a tiefling, she also has, like, on her, like, visually, up, like, on her neck and a little bit up to her horns, she has some, like, crimson scales, and made, like, a little bit on, like, her hand, her arms, and her hands a little bit. And so there's, like, these scales around her, and, like, as Miria is dying, pretty much, she kind of, like, gives Selphie a little bit, like, some of their blood mixes a little bit, but she also gives her, like, a piece of her horn as, like, a memento, as something to carry with her, to be, like, this, and, like, it had broken off during the course of the battle or something. It's like, carry this with you to remember me by. And through, like, trying to retain the memory and get closer to what Miria, like the heritage that, like, Miria has and everything, she kind of, like, clues into this fact that there is something more to Miria's heritage than just like the tiefling thing, like where these scales come from and everything. So, and finds out that Miria is part dragon, actually. And in trying to, like, in the mixing of their blood, and which very unsanitary, I know, it's kind of like horrible, but it's also like in trying to follow in her, learning more about Miria's heritage, learning more about these things that she comes from and the struggles she dealt with because of this. Selphie decides to carry that burden upon herself and turn that force into something good, which and becomes a Way of the Ascended Dragon monk, which basically is a monk who uses like dragon powers pretty much. They can like have like a dragon aura that like scares enemies and inspires friends, and they can like have spectral wings come out, and they can like breathe whatever element of the dragon would be. So basically, like, Selphie kind of carries the soul of Miria with her in her own way and incorporates the some of the traits that Miria had, some of the things that Miria could do, and also like because Selphie can't do magic, but she kind of like tries to carry her spirit with her and keep her alive in that way and do something that would make Miria proud, maybe, possibly, and like continue to fight the fight that they had, like, to save people and bring good into the world. And she goes out to do this by incorporating Miria into herself in that manner. So that is what Selphie does, and that's why she travels now. She's trying to bring about, like, she's kind of searching for what her purpose should be now. Because she's obviously devastated by the the loss of her sister, and trying to figure out what does she do now, and trying to kind of like carry Miria with her, and kind of like figure out how she, like, trying to get back to a sense of normalcy and go on these adventures that they talked about going on, even though they now can't. And it's definitely the saddest and darkest of the stories. And I don't know how that would really work out, but I think Way of the Ascended Dragon sounds cool, and it kind of goes really nicely into something that I'm also going to talk about later. Because this was like the second one I figured out. I figured out what their classes would be if they were both alive, and it was like, what if? Why would they go for these other ones? Like, oh, that's why. So I think this wasn't the last one I came up with. This was the second to last. We're kind of going in like a weird order, but I guess chapter 2 is then what if Selphie dies? And what happens there is, like, kind of like instead of carrying her like physically, and like kind of like carrying her like physical traits and her physical like presence like Selphie does, Miria way more carries the spirit of Selphie. So Selphie was someone who, like, very much was kind of like a goofball, and could, of course, took things seriously when necessary, but also spent a lot of her time trying to cheer people up and trying to bring joy to the world. And this also comes back to the fact that, in Crownguarde, she's a dancer, and kind of uses her, like, dancing prowess to inspire people, and also to fight, of course, because, like, dancer is a battle job in 14, but I kind of wanted to incorporate this, like, dancer thing identity into how they would be in D&D. So I figured, okay, Selphie was lost in this battle. What does Miria do then? Because like Miria isn't the type of person who would like, just kind of timid. She's the quiet one. She's way more contemplative. I don't know how you say it. Like she thinks about things a lot, way more, and she was always kind of the one who was the more careful, whereas Selphie was the one who kind of rushes into things, and then together it brought a really like nice balance that made it so that they could safely get through a lot of situations that they maybe shouldn't have or maybe couldn't individually. And that's kind of thing. But like now, the Selphie is gone. And what does Miria do then? Well, she doesn't really carry on the heritage and the legacy and the physical properties that Selphie has, but she carries on the spirit in her own way. And instead of turning to like instead of altering what she was, in a sense, instead of like turning into a different kind of mage, she kind of goes, okay, what does she remember Miria the most for? Or Selphie the most for, sorry. And the thing that Selphie mostly is remembered for by Miria is her ability to bring joy, to inspire people. And that's why Miria kind of takes up that instead and becomes a bard and takes up dancing and uses the dancing to inspire others and travels the world in order to bring the joy that Selphie now can't. And again, to live the life they wanted to live together. But Miria kind of feels like the important part about this isn't to combat evil. It's to like bring peace to people, bring happiness, spread joy in situations where they might not have it, or like if people are like scared, then use whatever, like do whatever that she can to make them happy again. And I kind of like I went with like a college of the I have it like it's on my work computer. I can't be bothered to get it. It was like College of the Fae. It's like a Fae type of thing, and it's like College of Glamour. College of Glamour Bard is what I decided upon because that was the one that's like used to like inspire allies and strike fear in enemies. I think not fear, but it's like something like that. And that's kind of what I figure that is the vibe that Miria would carry with her. Like that is how she sees Selphie. And, a bard is a mix of like a physical fighter and a magical fighter. And I kind of felt like this union between like the magic and the magic that she used before and the like the inspiration that she gets from Selphie kind of is how she would carry on afterwards. And I think that's very nice. It's like so she then travels the world as a bard now. And that's why she's back to level 1, because whereas Selphie is like, okay, I'm gonna use this new form of fighting, Miria is like, I'm kind of gonna go about everything differently now. I'm gonna take what I learned from my sister and incorporate it into what I know, and then, become the person that both of them kind of try to do what both of them could do. And I think that's kind of sweet. I know I came up with this story, but it kind of like it surprised me a little bit when I came up with it. And I know it's fucking lame and yada yada whatever, but I thought it was so nice that she would that she would try to do like spread the joy in her sister's stead and kind of like try to be both of them, not be both of them, but like try to do what both of them could do in her own way. And I think that's nice. That makes me happy to think about. And I'm gonna take a little sip of water before chapter 3. I couldn't be bothered to pause the recording. That's because it's been 25 minutes. Jeez, I talk so much. Anyway. Ooh. This microphone picks up fucking everything. But yeah, I hope the recording's alright, because I've been leaning it up against my legs this entire time. And I hope that didn't make, like... I should actually check it. I don't know if I can. Huh. Because I can't be bothered to... it's fine. Whatever. So, the third and final one is... I'm gonna check it. Okay, so I just listened back to it, and it's fine. I guess I'll have to splice them together somehow. But, chapter 3, part 3, whatever. What if they both live? And I think what I kind of wanted to go for here is something different, because the others is like, they kind of carry the other person with them. And I thought, okay, but they both made it out alive. And the war is over now. So it's peacetime. And of course, they could travel the world together and do their thing, but I think also what the battle kind of highlighted for them is because that, yeah, they're really strong together, but they're like co-training like that, them being so in tune, in sync with each other, and so dependent on each other on the battlefield, kind of hinders them also. And like, they don't really know who they are without the other person, which is also why if one of them died, they would carry their legacy with them in each of their own ways. But when they're both alive, they kind of come to this mutual understanding of, I think I need to figure out who I am, where I come from, and what it means to me. Because they're both adopted, and it's not like they carry any resentment. Of course, they're orphans, but I'm assuming now that, they kind of made peace with that in their own way and something. But they kind of want to pursue their heritages a little bit individually. And they want to, overcome the shortcomings that they have by being so dependent on one another. So they kind of, they look at each other and, let's go each of our separate ways. Let's travel the world on our own. And once we've grown, we'll meet back up. And they don't set any date. They don't set any time. They don't set any place. It's just kind of when the time is right, we'll meet each other again. And they know this. And they trust fully that one another will make it back because they're strong. They believe in the other person, and they know that no matter what trouble they'll get into, they'll make it through. So they part ways. And Selphie what kind of happens here is that, they split ways, and Selphie travels back to the region that she's from. And it's in the outskirts of the kingdom or whatever. It's along the mountains or something. I don't know. I guess it would be like a savannah type thing because she's a cheetah, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. The point is, yeah, it would be a savannah. That actually works really well. What I thought of. So she is just like in this like plains area, and she finds not her people, like the people from her village, because they died. But she finds like people from like neighboring villages and other tabaxi who was like, yeah, we knew your town, we knew your family, and like they is like taken in by them and decides to learn their ways, not in like, because it's not like a, you know, underdeveloped society or anything, whatever. It's kind of more like a, what I wanted to go for here is that Selphie has spent her time in the like the big city being kind of just like a any means necessary kind of fighter. She has like the technique, but she is very like rough and tumble. She's very unrefined in a sense, and what she does is then she studies under a monk in one of these villages around, and kind of, and like she becomes a sun way of the sun soul is what it's called, monk, which who can like harvest the power of the sun in a way and like shoot beams of light from their fists and stuff like that, and becomes connected with like the culture that she comes from, and uses that in her adventures going forward. And she learns what she can, but also she decides to, you know, travel the world and just try to figure out what this new power is. And she learned what she could theoretically, but she's very, very much a person who needs to get into the thick of it in order to figure it out. So now, you know, with an entirely new way of thinking about fighting, and like an entirely new way of like entirely new techniques and everything, she goes from being this fighter who could very naturally do pretty much whatever she wanted without thinking, to now having to think about her moves again, which is why she's back to being level 1. Because this, like, the way of the Sun Soul is new to her, and it, like, I kind of imagine that it's an entirely different style of fighting. It's like, if you know karate, you're not going to know jujitsu. So that's kind of the vibe I wanted to bring here. If you know, like, MMA, you're not going to be able to get at, like, taekwondo. It's kind of the thing. So, like, now she's just going around trying to figure out how to like master this new thing and like live with that mentality with her. Because it's also like there's two things about the way of the Sun Soul that I've kind of thought about, and I don't know if it's like any lore or anything. I don't know. It's not really that important. The point is that one is that for the way of the Sun Soul, monks can, instead of attacking, they can shoot a beam of light in like a medium range type of thing. And what I kind of like about that, and why I kind of chose this, is because that kind of, like, Selphie is the close range fighter who is useless at range. And I kind of like the fact that she would be like, okay, I'm going to use this, I'm going to do something to cover for my shortcomings, which is that if I can't get in, I am done. And she does this by, you know, learning to channel the energy of nature and the sun, and have that flow through her body in a way that kind of in a way that would, in the way that it manifests for her, is that she can make these like ranged attacks, and she can imbue her like body with the power of like solar power. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And then she would, do her thing of just traveling around and figuring out how to help people using this and how to master it so that she can go back to Miria and be like, hey, look at what I can do now. I figured it out. And also, learn about herself. Who is she when she's just herself? Because like she was very young when Miria was adopted also. So, and yeah, it's kind of the thing. And that's Selphie's part in this. And then Miria's part is that, they part ways. And I kind of wanted to do a thing of like, Miria has like demonic and draconic heritage. And like I don't like the whole tieflings are considered evil and scary from people. And I kind of also don't like the thing of like, she would be like people would be skeptic of her because of her dragon heritage either. So I kind of wanted to be like, okay. And that's kind of why I wanted to turn it into something positive for Selphie. But I also thought, okay, what if Miria turned it into something positive? Because right now, she's just been using magic. She's learned like classical spells and everything. She could do like her arcane missiles and her fireballs and everything, but it's very by the books. It's like, okay. But she knows she has this power inside of her. She knows she is like she can do something with like the powers from her heritage. And I kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna continue, like, finish this before I go like more meta with it. So she kind of like, she goes back to the region that she comes from. And like, I don't know if she were to like I don't think she would find like people like Selphie did, but more like she kind of finds out why, like, about her draconic heritage and her demonic heritage, and kind of like, not so much because you don't really, there's not a lot of like demon stuff, and I don't want her to become a warlock. So I figured, okay, she can become a like I think it's called draconic soul sorcerer. Doesn't really matter. Point is, like, what a draconic sorcerer can do is like they can do like breath attacks, and they can sprout real wings, and they can do the dragon presence thing also. So basically, they have a lot of the same dragon powers that Way of the Ascended Dragon monks have, but it's a sorcerer, and they can do the thing for real instead of doing kind of where a monk, what kind of where Selphie is emulating it. Miria is it. So, like, she kind of like learns about her heritage in both of these ways, and kind of, because like tieflings unlock different spells at different levels, and I think like that's kind of where that would come in. And then like the draconic sorcerer, like they learn like draconic things at different levels, and I figured that like that's where that would come in. So it's kind of like, she is figuring out what these two parts of her heritage are. And of course, like, where she came from is gone. And I don't really want to make it just the same. Like, I haven't really thought about this actually. But I kind of want to, maybe she finds like, a person who could tell her something about it, or like, I kind of want it to be more like she finds some like books or some letters or something that kind of survived this attack on her village. And that she then uses this to seek out more knowledge about herself, about her parents, about her family. And in this also kind of exploring her inner realm more, because it's not like she's ignored it until now. It's more just like she hadn't found like how to use it, how to harness the power she has within her. And now she's trying to use this as the source of her magic instead of using what she did before, which was, I don't know what the source of magic is in D&D, but let's say like it's like the like arcane streams or whatever. It doesn't really matter. The point is that she is trying to use magic in a different way, and using it in this different way is like allowing her to unlock her potential and like use the parts of her powers that her parents would have taught her if, you know, the village hadn't been attacked. So, and now she's like traveling the world in order to figure out what she can do now. What is this power inside of her? Try to learn more about it, learn more about her parents and her family and everything. And like kind of like when she's figured out and mastered the power from inside of her, she can go back to Selphie and be like, hey, I can do this now. And it's also the thing of like where Selphie. So I actually just thought about this. It just dawned on me right now. But no matter whether Miria lives or not, Selphie's way of finding her own path is very much through action. It's very much through like improving herself and covering her own shortcomings or carrying something with her physically along the way. Like either she takes on the characteristics of Miria through becoming the ascendant dragon, or she covers for her shortcomings through learning combat styles. And whereas Miria is way more of like it's way more like, how to say this in a good way? It's not like, it's way more about feelings. It's way more about thinking about things, and like she wants to carry on the emotions of Selphie and bring the emotions that she would bring to the world when Selphie's dead. And otherwise she wants to like find out about herself, learn about her own, like the heritage that she's lost, and like carry on from that, her people and her family and everything. And like it's way more introspective, whereas Selphie is more extrospective. I don't know if that's a word, but let's put it like that, because that's kind of the vibe that they have. Selphie is way more about outward actions, whereas Miria is way more about inward considerations. And it's been like that as long as I've as for the entire time that I've thought about them, even back in high school. And so that's kind of the vibe that they have. So I wanted to say something about them earlier that was a little bit more meta, but it doesn't really matter. The point is that so they kind of Miria kind of travels the world like this, and that's why she's back to level 1, because she's using a different source for her magic. And that's kind of where we find them in whatever way. And the thing is, of course, D&D isn't you can't just switch characters. You have to make them, and then there's you have a character for a campaign and everything. And so I probably couldn't play all 4 of them, each of the alterations of the 2 characters, but I kind of like the idea of just having knowing what the other character is doing, no matter what the outcome would be. And I don't know how I would decide which it would be. I guess I would consult with whoever would run the campaign. But I thought about this a lot, and I don't know why this kind of like has gripped me so much, but it's such a fun thing to think about, and I kind of been surprised a couple times about what I thought up and how like the natural conclusion of how these characters would act. And I think that's kind of neat. And like I know I'm not a creator. I can't really create things, but this kind of made me feel a little bit like that, and I think that's nice. So yeah, I guess that's what's up with Crownguarde in the D&D edition. And I don't know what the end of their stories would be. I guess the end of the story, if they're both alive, is that, you know, they meet up again somehow. And knowing what they know about themselves now, they kind of come back to their relationship with like a newfound appreciation, not only for each other, but also of themselves. They've found themselves. And they can go back to living like this, living with the person they care about so much, and having this like sister relationship that they, like, for a person they would miss dearly. It's not because either of them liked the idea of splitting up, or not splitting up, something, yeah, but traveling each of their own ways, but they both knew it had to be done. And I just hope that they meet up again someday, because I think that would be kind of sweet. But yeah, that's everything I thought up for now. And like, I don't know if I'll ever get to play them, but I had fun thinking about it, and I'm glad that I at least recorded it, because I think it's a nice story, and it's a story that I needed to have been told. And here it is. And I'm looking forward to exploring it. Maybe someday. But until then, thanks for listening. And I don't know, I hope you're doing well out there. Things are tough right now. I don't know what's happening, but things just seem to be going horribly for people. So I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you get through whatever it is that is your own personal chaos at the moment. So thanks for listening, and goodbye.